y'all. Make sure you like the video. So, when we talk about the weakest film in the Raimi trilogy, unfortunately, it's easily Spider Man 3. And it's always the one that comes up because that's just reality. And it released back in 2007. So, we got three Spider Man movies within the course of like 5 years, bro. That's why we saying like it takes so long to get a third one for some of these superhero movies today when we had three Spider Man movies from 2002 to 2007 back when we had less technology. And so, once again, Sam Raimi had an enormous expectations after the critical and commercial success of Spider-Man 2, which people didn't think he'd get the top one. And while it became a massive box office hit, I think Spider-Man 2 made almost 900 million at the box office or something like that. In 2007, that's crazy. It also divided audiences because of its very crowded, jam-packed, stuffed up story, some of the tonal shifts and controversial portrayals of the villain Venom. I want to throw in Venom was not supposed to be in the film. Fox kind of made him throw Venom in at the last minute, and he had to do what he had to do with it. I wish he did better, but what can you do? Now, yeah, nearly 20 years later, many fans have softened on the film. While it's undeniably flawed, Spider Man 3 also contains some of the trilogy's really good emotional moments, impressive action sequences, and powerful themes about forgiving, because this is a really heavy one. And I've always stood against the fact that I never thought Spider Man 3 was terrible. I was always like, yo, there's so many worse superhero movies. Hell, I'll just throw a few out there. Let's see: Steel, Supergirl, 1984, Superman 4, Superman 3, Batman and Robin, Catwoman, Elektra. Yeah, that's just movies around that time and before. I didn't even go after. So you know what I'm saying? Like think about it like that from that point. But hell, X-Men 3 is worse than it, in my opinion. So we see Peter seems to just finally have everything he's wanted. He's respected as Spider-Man. His relationship with MJ is stronger than it's ever been. New York embraces Spider-Man as a hero despite Jameson's crap, but success begins to change him, and it kind of clouds his ego a little bit and making him a little overconfident and blind to the struggles of those around him. He kind of doesn't give a damn about what's going on with the others, even to the point of Bryce Dallas Howard's Gwen Stacy showing up, kind of causing some friction between him and MJ. I thought this was a right decision because I was like, Peter is not used to being popular or liked or things going his way. And when they finally start to, you tend to get a little over beside yourself a little bit. And it's easy to lose track of the reality when things are going your way on a consistent basis. It is. It's really hard. And I thought this was a realistic direction to go. Now, at the same time, we have Flip Marco, and he was caught in a scientific accident that transforms him into a powerful Sandman, which is one of the best things to happen in the Spider-Man movies. I think Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman, again, Raimi knocks it out the park with the villain. Because I genuinely think Sandman was supposed to be the main and only villain, but because they kind of made him throw in, but I think it was supposed to be Sandman and then Harry's Goblin. But then I think they like forced him to throw in Venom, which just sets the whole thing off. But Peter then learns information suggesting that Marco may have played a role in the death of Uncle Ben, reigniting feelings of anger and revenge that he thought he had since let go from the first movie. And it's so well done, in my opinion, that Peter's reaction to Flint Marco is like that. Because it's like, yeah, that's the guy who actually shot Uncle Ben, and you kind of took out the wrong guy, unfortunately. You took out the guy that was involved, but you took out the wrong guy. Now, unfortunately, as that's going on, you got the whole thing with Harry that's reaching his breaking point, consumed by the death of his father. Harry just fully embraces the legacy of the Green Goblin and seeks revenge against Peter. But what I will add in is at the beginning of the film, when he attacks him, Peter almost kills him and puts him through amnesia, weirdly enough. And they're best pals again for a little bit until the amnesia wears off and the stuff just goes the way it goes. And I think that dynamic would have been better if Harry didn't have to be killed by Venom. Now, I don't know if that was always supposed to be the case, but they do Harry's death really well in Spider-Man 3, and I do think that maybe Sandman. I don't even think Sandman was supposed to take him out, so I don't know if Harry was originally supposed to die or not. But since they did kill him, I do think they handled his death very well. And I think it was a good way for them to reconcile. I love the fact that not Alfred tells him the truth and how everything went down. The fight between him and Peter in the apartment is some of the it's just so cool and violent and just so toned the right way. But yeah, I think Harry in Spider-Man 3 is handled for the most part fairly well outside of the amnesia thing. But yeah, do it like that. And as if the conflict with Harry wasn't enough, everything going on with Marco, then you got the whole symbiote crashing to Earth, and it bonds to Peter, enhancing his powers while slowly corrupting his personality. And the once selfless hero becomes arrogant, aggressive, and consumed by his darker impulses, which is. I do think the black suit stuff was done really well until it wasn't. Like, I think the black suit stuff was so well done, how it like took over his body while he was asleep, corrupted him. His personality started to shift, but then the famous sequence in the movie happens, and that's when it gets a little stupid. Or it's like the black suit stuff is kind of like up and down. And eventually, the symbiote kind of abandons Peter, even though, let's be honest, they did the ripping the suit off in the bell tower perfectly. Like, that sequence is done perfectly in the film. Like, that is one of the most famous sequences in the comics from back in the day. And Raimi captured that scene perfectly in the movie. And I said, bruh, this is awesome. And it's got that beautiful Sam Raimi flair. It's just fantastic. The special effects team actually deserved a raise for this one because they did a darn good job with the special effects in Spider-Man 3. And Eddie is a dick. I don't think they should have cast Topher Grace. I think that when the symbiote corrupts him, it's just Topher Grace's voice with like Venom, and it just looks so stupid, like really dumb. And the movie does ultimately build towards that final battle, and I do think the final battle is done well. I just don't know how much I like it compared to the other two. So let's just go into that. I do think there are certain things about the movie that hurt it. Like I said, like I just knocked on, I do think Topher Grace was a terrible choice for Eddie Brock, even though I actually love Topher Grace, but I don't think he was Eddie Brock. This Black Suit stuff was good until it wasn't. And I do think Tobey Maguire isn't doing as good as he otherwise could have, like he did in 2. And I just really can't stand MJ and the Raimi series. I've let that known, right? I just don't like MJ in the movies. Now, the heart of the film, in my opinion, where that's probably most of the bad stuff. The heart of the film, in my opinion, is Marco. Like the scene when he first comes out of the sand, the Sandman for the first time, and he's like reaching for the locket with his daughter's picture. That scene still gets me in my feelings, bro. To this day, to this very day, almost 20 years later, I still look at that sequence of Flint Marco coming out of the particle accelerator and just it just is very rough, and it's done beautifully. I think it's done great. It makes you care about Sandman. I love Sandman even without the Spider-Man 3. But that scene is done so well. All the Sandman scenes to me are done really well. And I do love the fact that Sandman chooses to forgive himself and has to learn to do that. He did accidentally shoot Uncle Ben, which is sad. He didn't want to. He didn't even want to hurt him. He just, his daughter needs the money to help his daughter to stand the third, what she's trying to do. And he actually does. I guess he does get the money at some point. And I love the fact that he asked Peter to forgive him despite everything. And Peter does. I think it's one of the biggest, most mature moments that Peter has in the Spider-Man trilogy is forgiving Marco for accidentally killing Uncle Ben, and it's done so good. Like I said, even that for being the least good Spider-Man movie, I still think Spider-Man 3 is pretty good. It's the Venom stuff that really screws the movie up, unfortunately. And as I have stated, the black suit stuff, if I'm going into a deeper dive, I thought the personality switch was done really well. I thought the slow burn to him changing was done really well. I'm not a huge fan of how the black suit is just Sam Raimi's suit, but black. I would have liked for them to have tried to shoot for a more comic accurate black suit just to, make it look a little different. But say la vie. Like I said, the bell tower scene is done perfectly. I think that the scene when he's like taking out Marco and all those other things, like I think the black suit stuff is good. Like I said, until it's not, and the emo stuff starts to happen, and the dancing throughout the street, and it's so stupid. I can tell Tobey Maguire is having the time of his life, but it's not good. In fact, it's the stupidest action. I remember being in the theater and everyone's laughing. I'm laughing, but I'm also like, this is so dumb, you know. So going through, it's Spider-Man 3 just like I said, it's not terrible. There's so many more films better than Spider-Man 3, but there's also so many worse films. So Spider-Man 3 kind of falls under that. If you like it, you like it. If you love it, you love it. If you hate it, you hate it. My opinion on Spider-Man 3 is it's cool, but it has those moments. So there are still some cool moments in Spider-Man 3, but it just didn't work all in all. I do think Peter and MJ's relationship struggles could have just not been in the movie. And I think it wouldn't have ultimately affected the movie that much. I mean, she does technically kind of make a move on Harry while she's with Peter, and that whole dynamic is a little crazy. I just think, like I said, if you would have cut out the Venom stuff, cut out the Eddie Brock stuff, and hell, you can even introduce the black suit stuff and have the black suit thing get solved in the second Spider-Man 4, which was supposed to happen. I think that would have been fine. I think it would have just been Sandman and Harry. He could have juggled between those two situations. And I think the movie would have played out differently. Like I said, I don't think Harry was supposed to die originally. So, does it hold up today? Does Spider Man 3 still hold up? I would say it holds up better than people remember. And the internet, in my opinion, is responsible for this because y'all kind of took a few moments in Spider Man 3 and memed it out to death. And those things tend to overshadow the actual good things in Spider Man 3. So I think that's kind of unfortunate because there's a lot of emotional moments, a lot of good effects, a lot of good action, a lot of good story beats, character development that people overlook because of how mean to death Spider Man 3 is. Now, does it reach the heights of Spider Man 2? No. Is it a very okay end to an otherwise very good trilogy? I'd say so. I'd say so. So, Spider Man 3 is a legitimately interesting movie because it did succeed and struggle in like equal measure. It did some things bad, some things good to the same amount. And it's definitely overstuffed. It's an overstuffed movie. Occasionally, it's very uneven and introduces too many major characters at once, but it also does deliver those heartfelt performances that we love about the first two. The action and one of the trilogy's most mature messages of forgiving is stronger than revenge because Peter could have killed Marco if he wanted to, but he doesn't. And it has experienced something of a reevaluation in the last 20 years. Like, it is still considered the weakest Raimi trilogy by fans, but it's also appreciated more today than it definitely was 20 years ago. And sometimes the greatest battle for Spider-Man isn't a super villain; it is the darkness inside of himself. So understand that I do think Spider-Man 2 is a little overhated. Spider-Man 3 is a little overhated, and I think that yes, there are the bad stuff in it, but I don't think the bad stuff outweighs the good, and I don't think the good stuff outweighs the bad. It's kind of in the middle. They kind of weigh each other out, and that's just my opinion. So, let me know how you guys feel about Spider-Man 3 down below. Like, comment, subscribe for more. I'll see you on the next one.